Isaiah was a dreamer. The book of Isaiah in our Bible contains the words of several prophets in the tradition of Isaiah, but this one was the first. He began his work during the end of the reign of King Uzziah in the southern kingdom of Judah and continued for many years through many monarchs. These years were not great years for Judah. Their power was in decline, and they faced constant threats from the nations around them. They fought the Arameans first, and then the kingdom of Israel, and then the Ammonites. And finally, they faced the much greater threat of the Assyrian Empire. After years of negotiation and accommodation with this terrifying neighbor, finally the Assyrians attacked and laid siege to the holy city of Jerusalem. It seemed that the whole world was coming to Judah, intent on conquering it with weapons of war. But in the midst of this very painful reality, Isaiah imagines something very different. People are arriving in great numbers, he says, not to take advantage of his nation's weakness, but to honor its greatest wealth, the words of the God who dwells among them. All of the nations shall stream to God's house, Isaiah declares, to learn God's ways and walk in God's paths. Wisdom will go out from the city of Jerusalem to be shared with the rest of the world. God's judgment will be honored as fair judgment. Swords will be beaten into plowshares and spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, and neither shall they learn war anymore. Isaiah was a dreamer. He saw what was going on in his own country, and still he came to believe that this reality could be completely transformed. Instead of attracting attack, Judah would draw those who longed for peace. Instead of being destroyed as a culture and a people, the Judeans will be recognized and celebrated because of their faith. Instead of continuing to equip themselves for endless war, all of the nations would transform their weapons into tools for farming to better feed a hungry world. This week I learned about another dreamer. His name is Pedro Reyes, and he is a Mexican artist. In 2007, he created a project called Palas por Pistolas. Please correct my pronunciation later. He collected weapons in the city with the highest rate of gun deaths in his nation, and he exchanged them for household appliances, swords into plowshares, if you will. These weapons were taken to a military zone and crushed by a steamroller in a public act. The pieces were then taken to a foundry. 1,527 weapons were melted down to create 1,527 shovel heads that were used to plant 1,527 trees in urban areas of the city impacted by violence. It didn't stop there. The project has inspired people all around the world, including folks very close to here. In 2011, 6 of the shovels from this project were brought to Jamaica Plain and used to plant a tree in Stony Brook Park in memory of local young people who were killed by gun violence. A group of artists worked to develop a gallery exhibit and later a permanent public work at the site of the tree planting, raising awareness and seeding hope. Reyes has continued to experiment with this kind of transformative project. In 2012, he began another project called Disarm. He learned through a friend of weapons that had been seized from criminal organizations and dismantled and shipped to Mexico City. Reyes then used these pieces to create instruments, guitars, bass, saxophones, flutes, xylophones, a marimba with gun barrels as keys, all made to be played by hand. Then Reyes developed the project further, creating an orchestra of mechanized instruments. He worked with a team of programmers and designers and musicians to bring the full sound of these instruments to life for anyone who came to visit them in a museum. Reyes says, "It is easy to be seduced by weapons. You can come up with the idea to take a piece of wood and build a weapon, or you can do the opposite and create something else with that material. I believe that the purpose of art is to come up with ways to transform the most negative instincts into creative instincts." Most recently, Reyes created Disarm Music Box, featured on the right, a project focused on the production of weapons. He took pieces of weapons and made music boxes that produce a song from the country where the weapons were produced, as a critique of the global arms trade. Agents of death can become agents of life, Reyes teaches us. This is a redemption of this metal that could have taken your life or mine. So they are better as musical instruments, Reyes says. The spiritual work here is like saying, I'm taking this piece of metal that represents our instinct of killing each other, and I'm turning it into a musical instrument, which is the most sophisticated form of communication on the planet. Weapons are the rule of fear, and music is the rule of trust, he says. Both entail creativity and technology, but one is built to oppress others, and the other is a form of liberation. These sculptural operations are meant not only to transform matter, but to lead to a psychological transformation, and hopefully a transformation of society. Today we enter the season of Advent, a season of preparation for the good news of Christmas. This season is full of texts that describe disruption. They speak of people who need to wake up and worlds that need to be turned upside down and skies that will be shaken. For those of us who are reasonably comfortable as we are, these texts can sound disturbing. But in a world of waste and want, of discrimination and division, of war and ecological destruction, don't we want something that's truly earth-changing? And so we turn this season to those who dream, to folks who are inspired to imagine and to work towards something that is completely at odds with the reality that we find ourselves in. I wonder what brokenness is close to your heart in this season. Maybe out there in the world or in our local community or in your own private life. How could the dreams that God gives us and the dreamers who are all around us help us to move towards healing and transformation? How could even the weapons in our midst, guns, yes, but also words, habits, beliefs, social structures, government institutions, religious traditions, how could they be remade to cultivate peaceful and abundant living? It is so easy to keep studying war, to learn the ways of the world as they are today and to accept them. But Isaiah exhorts the people of his own age, "O house of Jacob," he says, "let us walk in the light of the Lord. Let us live as if this future vision of peace were already so, he says, or at least as if it were possible. And the strange thing is, in some ways, Isaiah's prophecy has been realized. We are still at war with one another. We are still teaching and learning and practicing war in many forms. And also, the nations have streamed to learn the wisdom of the God of Jacob and its manifestation in the words of Isaiah. We turn to these words again and again, Jewish and Christian and Muslim and Baha'i and beyond. So many people are caught up in this dream that Isaiah shared. We continue to remember it and speak it out loud. God's dream of peace is being exported from ancient Jerusalem all around the world to inspire us to believe that something else is possible, that what is deeply evil can be transformed into something that is truly good. Please pray with me. God, you offer us mighty wisdom, ways of mercy, paths of peace, a dream far beyond the present world, and dreamers to be our companions. Help us to receive all that you offer. Help us to welcome possibilities for change, even when they disturb or disrupt us. Make us skilled blacksmiths, forging weapons into spades and symphonies. Amen.